Follow Paddy Power on Snapchat. The username is the Paddy Power, and we promise there won't be any boring snaps about gigs, the weather, or the gym.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome along to this Racing Postcast. I'm Sam Laurie in the studio with Nick Watts. We've got Tom Siegel and Paul Binfield on the line. Lots to get through this week. There's been a bit of a big race in France over the weekend. The Arc de Triomphe. We'll be discussing that. Also, the rest of the undercard at the newly opened Paris Longchamp. Also, the action at Newmarket last weekend, and again looking ahead to the action there this weekend, the Dewhurst Stakes and the Cesarewitch headlining the card on Saturday. But Nick, we'll get started. What a race. The Arc de Triomphe, Enable, Sea of Class. What did you make of it?
Yeah, like you said, it was a fantastic finish. I thought for a moment, half a furlong out, the Sea of Class was going to get there. Enable looked as though she was gasping for the line, and opinion has been divided since then. I think it's fair to say on social media and the like about whether James Dorr rode a good race or a bad race. I think if you'd swapped the draws over, you probably would have got a different result. I think Enable, she broke well. She was in the perfect sit. She had a good draw. She was in an ideal situation. Sea of Class, she's a hold-up filly. She was drawn 15.
She didn't have a hard luck story coming through though, did she? It was a...
Yeah, and she could have been ridden closer to the pace, I suppose, but it's an easy game in hindsight, and they did all their homework beforehand. They spoke to Lester Piggott, Maureen Haggis was saying, and she asked Lester what he would do, and he said, look, you just got to ride her for luck and hope that it goes in your direction. It's tricky, and there's a big experience edge as well for Enable. She'd obviously been there and seen it and done it, and Sea of Class, she's obviously just made her debut this year. Looking back through her win, she'd never faced more than 9 rivals in her life. So this would have been a bit of a culture shock for her, and I think she emerges with huge credit as well. I'm personally not one who wants to have a dig at Doyle or anything like that. I thought he did what he could with the cards that he was given. And Enable, she may have lucked out a little bit because she obviously wasn't at her best. John Gosden said that afterwards and said that we didn't know at the time, obviously, but had a little hold up from her, exactly, between Kempton and the Arc. And it's not ideal to come into a race like this being injured all year and then coming back with a small field, Group 3 win at Kempton, about a month ago. It's far from ideal. The hold-up wouldn't have been ideal either, so we didn't see her at her best, but it says a lot for her class and great, just great placement from Frankie, knowing where to be and what to do at the right time, etc., to just have enough in the tank to beat Sea of Class. But I think both emerged with huge credit, and I'm not going to have a go at Doyle. I don't think he's done much wrong there.
Yeah, it was looking pretty desperate by the line, wasn't it, with Frankie and Enable. Tom, what did you make of the ride on Sea of Class? Are you happy to go along with Nick's view on it?
Half. I thought they made life too difficult for themselves, if I'm totally honest with you, Sam and Nick. I thought that I have watched 37 arcs now. I've never seen a horse come from last to first up the inside. Now, they nearly got very lucky. They nearly did it. So therefore, it's hard to say it was a desperate decision they made. I just thought that in hindsight, everything's in hindsight, but I've never seen an arc won the way they tried to win an arc. And just because it was a bad race, it turned out to be, I don't think it was the greatest renewal ever. And Enable, as John Gosden said, wasn't at her best. She nearly got away with it. She got a perfect run through, as you said there, Sam. So they nearly got away with what I would consider a bad tactical decision. So therefore, in terms of rides, if that's what they've decided to do, then they performed their plan to perfection. I have a problem with the plan, not with the ride. I think trying to win.
What do you think they should have done?
I think they should have ridden it. Oh, like One Master. They won the Forêt about half an hour later. I know Pierre-Charles Boudot was riding One Master, but she was in trap 15. She was in exactly the same stall over 7 furlongs. They didn't ride her the same way. Now, I always think that when you're... Problem with riding a race in the Arc is it's such an important race. And my guess is that Connections were agonising over what to do for days. As soon as the draw came out, they probably spoke to everyone, what should we do? And they made their decision. I personally don't agree with the decision because I don't think you can win Arcs like that. They nearly did, so clearly you nearly can. But that was the decision they made, and they stuck with it, and they nearly came up smelling the roses. So I'm not going to sit here and say, well, I just think it asked too much of her. That was what I would say. And they nearly got away with it because Enable was about £10 below form. But an in-form Enable, she would have got nowhere near her.
Yeah, well, hopefully we will have a rematch next year. Paul, have you got prices for next year's Arc?
Yes, I have, Sam. First of all, Enable is 6-4 on for the Breeders' Cup Turf now, having been 7-4 before yesterday's scintillating performance for the Arc next year. If we make Enable a 4-1 favourite, Sea of Class 6-1 to go one better next year, 12 Massard, 25 Kew Gardens, and it's 33 bar that.
And do you agree with your odds compilers there, Paul, that Enable will win next year in a rematch against Sea of Class?
Well, I'm not sure, Sam. It's be very interesting if Sea of Class got a better draw. I disagree with the lads, really. If you've got Lester Piggott and Maureen Haggis telling you that you've got to drop in the race and ride for luck, I think you're going to do it, and it nearly came off. It was a great battle. Well done to Suffolk Supremo, John Gosden. No previous Arc winners won the Arc off just one run, so that was brilliant. And there's not a lot in it between Enable and Sea of Class at the top of the betting for next year.
Yeah, Nick, what's your take on it in a rematch? Enable, Sea of Class. Obviously, Sea of Class will have a lot more weight to carry next year. She won't get that 3-year-old allowance, 3-year-old filly allowance.
Yeah, it's a difficult one. She really impressed me with Sea of Class, with just how she handled the whole occasion. It didn't faze her at all. Like I said, it was a much bigger field, completely different test really for her than what she's been used to in this country, where it's been easy for her to come from last to first, because you don't get half as many traffic problems in 8-9 runner fields as you would do in a field twice that size. So, she really looked as though she'd come of age, and I might give her the nod over Enable next year. It's hard enough to win 2. It's virtually impossible to win 3, as Trev found out. And she's got a killer turn of foot, Sea of Class, to get from where she did to almost overhauling Enable, and she was in front past the line. Tremendous. And you would think she's still lightly raced, so there should be more improvement in the next year. I might be inclined to take her over Enable.
That said, though, on Racing Post ratings, Enable's win was the worst Arc winning performance for the last 10 years. Does that come as a surprise to you?
No, but on the other, it's slightly misleading as well, though, isn't it? Because we all know the build-up that she had to the race. We all know she was overcoming a long-term injury. Like I said, you wouldn't normally prep a horse with just one run on the all-weather a month before you go to a race as big as the Arc. So RPRs for me don't really count in this instance, because you've just got to give the horse enormous credit for still having the class to get the job done, despite all the handicaps that she's had. So she's a few pounds off her best. I don't care about that. She got it done, and that's what you can say for her. She's made of, she's not just a brilliant filly, but she's got toughness as well.
And Tom, what's your take on it? Who'd win the rematch?
Tricky one. I think Sea of Class would win if they rode her differently. I think that RPRs do have do tell an interesting story, Nick. I think what they're trying to say is that the general standard of the race, not Enable's performance, we all know Enable wasn't at her best, but the general standard of the race wasn't up to much this year, and I agree with that. I really do. I think bar the front 4 who finished first 4, they'd all got good Group 1 winning form. I thought it was a bit of a mishmash of horses in behind them. I think when I looked at the race on the Saturday, it was really hard to find anything out of the ordinary. Maybe obviously Clough Stars was a big price, it turned out on the day, but out of the ordinary to come and beat the first 4. So I do think that Racing Post ratings tell a story. I do think it wasn't a great race. Having said that, it was a fantastic spectacle, as it always is, the Arc, and it would be fantastic to watch the two of them in action again. I'd probably go for Sea of Class, because I don't think she has to be ridden like that. I don't know why they keep on doing it. There was all the furore after the Irish Oaks about what a brilliant ride it was. Well, it came back to bite them, I think, because they got that idea in their heads that was the way the horse has to be ridden. Good horses don't have to be ridden like that. She could have travelled easily in midfield on Sunday, and I think she's better than she showed. And it was just, I don't know. Look, you do what you do, and it comes back afterwards. But I think it was the one that got away for me. And
just a word on Enable. Odds on now for the Breeders' Cup Turf. You have to go back an awfully long time to find an Arc winner that's
bad price that's
Sam. Won again. Yeah,
bad price that. Surely odds on for a Breeders' Cup Turf where it could be firm ground. She could be drawn in trap 12. Oh no, I wouldn't be looking at that right now. I mean, look, she's fantastic superstar filly, isn't she? 2 Arcs, and Oaks and King George, whatever. She's one of the best I've ever seen. But at this page, I think you got to really desperately need money to be taking 4 to 6 now.
What about those down the field, Tom? You mentioned it wasn't sort of great strength in depth, but the likes of Cloth of Stars, Capri, Salwin, Kew Gardens, they're all likely to be around again next season. Do you think they're in for some big prizes next year, or?
I think you could perhaps give Capri another shot somewhere, but I don't think he's super top class. I think Waltgeist was a bit unlucky. I thought he doesn't have the electric turn of foot of Sea of Class, and maybe the draw compromised him a little bit more than her. I thought Kew Gardens ran an interesting race. I'd be quite interested in him if they went for the Breeders' Cup Turf. I don't know if they will. They maybe got some Capri for that or something else, but I thought he ran a good race. Those would be the two I took out of it, but I really couldn't see there much strength in depth in the race, and therefore wouldn't be. I think the 3-year-olds will come along next year, and they'll be the ones to give those two a race.
Okay, so Nick, any of the beaten horses impress you at all?
I wouldn't say impressed, but Capri, it was much more like it from him, I thought. Bear in mind, he's had an injury-interrupted campaign as well, and was slightly, very lacklustre in his reappearance. But as we also know, Aidan's come along, from one run to the next, often hugely. It was much more like it from him. Whether there's anything for him left this season, I don't know. But yeah, he was much more like it from him. And
odds on Enable for the Breeders' Cup?
No, I wouldn't be keen on her for a few reasons. As Tom said, the chance of maybe getting firm ground, and the fact that I think they put all their eggs in the Arc basket this season, and they've done it and they've got away with it, and with the interrupted campaign, with the hold up they had between Kempton and Longchamp. So I would stick rather than twist on that one, but. Just John Gosden obviously won't have any regrets because he won the race, but I wonder if Anthony Oppenheimer will, because they looked as though there was enough cut in the ground there for Cracksman to be completely effective, and he's probably going to go to stud having never run in an Arc de Triomphe, and we could be talking about him just as easily today as we could be about Enable, but he never got the chance.
Yeah, well said. We'll be looking at the rest of the action at Longchamp and Newmarket over the weekend right after this.
Success ain't earned, it's bought. That's why at Paddy Power, we paid the big bucks for the best tech nerds in the world to develop our new, fastest ever app. Download the new app from the App Store or Play Store now. 18+, begambleaware.org.
So welcome back. Time now to look at the Arc Day undercard. We'll start off with the Abbaye. Nick, Mabs Cross avenged that Nunthorpe victory there. What did you make of it?
It's a funny race, the Abbaye. I like it as a contest, but as a spectacle, it's dreadful. How can you run a Group 1 race on such a big card like that? Running up that strip in the middle of Longchamp where nobody can particularly see it. The horses are in the distance. You don't really get an idea until the last few strides who might be in front. And I'm sure Michael Dodds and the owners of Mabs Cross don't care a jot about that. They've got a Group 1 in the bag, and fair play. I did think on first glance when they went past the post at York, when they flashed past, I thought she'd won that day, and she just got touched off. So it's just rewards for her. And as Tom will know, I always say that I'm famously forgiving with horses, but I've got to say I think Batash is finally on my swerve list now. I've made excuses for him in the past, and he bounced back at Shanty last season and put up a great performance. Having run badly in the Nunthorpe, came here this time with an identical preparation, couldn't get the job done. He's plateaued for me this season, and whereas because he's a year older, I thought he might progress, and as he calms down, he might mature more and sweep all before him this season. You think of his 3 big tests at Ascot, York and the Abbaye, and he's flunked all of them. So, yeah,
he's
Batash.
One of those, he looks brilliant at Group 2. Absolute superstar, doesn't he? But
then he looked brilliant in this race last season, and that was Group 1 level. But maybe finally his temperament is getting the better of him. But he's plateaued, and he's not one that I would be following in big sprints for next season.
Okay, Tom, what did you make of the Abbaye?
Oh, blimey, the Abbaye's such a hard race to decipher. Always the Abbaye. I thought it seemed to me, and I've only watched it a couple of times and saw it on the video there, that they went probably a bit too quick, didn't they? Batash, Soldier's Call, and the other ones, and they sort of set it up for the closers, didn't they? Gold Vibe, Mabs Cross. I thought the 2-year-old ran an absolute blinder myself. I thought he ran an absolute screamer. I love it when 2-year-olds run in races like that. I think it provides a different aspect, a different sort of strand of form to the race. It provided a context to how good the sprinting 2-year-olds were, and I was delighted to see Soldier's Call run such a good race. Little bit disappointed he couldn't hold on because, as Nick says, half a furlong out, a furlong 10 yards out, probably after the line. I thought he might have won. Who knows who really won? I'd like to see the photo, but I thought Soldier's Call ran an excellent race. Mabs Cross deserved it, didn't she? She's third at Royal Ascot, second in the Nunthorpe. She deserved the big one. And what can you say about Michael Dodds? Not only was he winning there, he's just about the best trainer of sprinters in the world, isn't he? I mean, intense focus at Ascot on Saturday, Mabs Cross, all those other ones he's had down the years. Brilliant training performance again, and fully deserved for a small yard who does exceptionally well.
Yeah, Paul, are there any future targets mentioned for Mabs Cross Champions Day or Breeders' Cup or anything like that?
Well, we did cut Mabs Cross into 7 from 12 for the British Champions Sprint Stakes. Sam, I'd probably advise punters to hold off on that because Michael Dodds was saying the horse is an out-and-out 5 furlong animal. So I'm not quite sure where we'll see him next. I thought it was a superb ride by Gerald Mosso, who came late, as he did on WizKid, to beat the owner's Mason in 2012, and the owner told him to do that on Sunday. A superb ride by Gerald, but as I say, I'm not quite sure where we'll see Mabs Cross next.
Yeah, and looking at some of the other Group 1s on the card, One Master won the Foray. He'd been getting beaten in Group 3s through the summer and then comes out, wins a fairly messy-looking Group 1. What did you make of it, Nick?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing you'd say in One Master's favour, if you look back through her form, she came good around this time last year. So maybe, that's the kind of time when she comes to the fore. And Haggis said she enjoyed the soft ground there. Thought Sir Dance Lot ran quite an interesting race as well. I think maybe he's not quite finished for this season. I think he finished 5th, from a long way back. Didn't quite get there. I don't know. I found the supporting races is always interesting to watch and good fun. But in terms of what it meant for the future, I'm not sure the 2-year-old races were fantastic. To be honest, I'm sure we'll get more clues for the classics coming from Newmarket this weekend than we did yesterday. The one performance I did like was Wild Illusion, who's was quite authoritative, I thought, in her race, the Opera, and they've really found her niche there at 1 mile and 2. She's in the kind of near the front or at the front with a furlong to go. She's so strong to the line because she probably does stay a bit further. Really, I mean, obviously Oak second. But they've dropped her back, and she's just so strong at the end of her races at 1 mile and 2. She's really come to the fore, and she's one I hope she stays in training next season, and because I think she can win more races at the top level.
Yeah, but I think they mentioned the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Turf as her next target. Paul, what price would she be for that?
Well, we went 11-4 joint favourite immediately after the race. Sam, she's now clear favourite for that at 11-4. Sea of Class 3-1, 4-1 Sister Charlie 6 bar. But it was good to see Wild Illusion come back like that. She was very well backed in the Oaks and just continues Charlie Appleby's fine season.
Yeah, have you got Lawrence priced up for the Filly and Mares race?
Yeah, Lawrence is in the betting there as well, Sam. 6-1 after her superb win in the Sun Chariot on Saturday. That's the first show for her, and we've also got Lawrence in the Breeders' Cup Mile, Sam. In that one, she's 5 from 8, so a couple of possible targets for Lawrence, and it'll be interesting to see where Cole Burke, who is another trainer having a fine season, which race they actually aim her at.
Yeah, Tom, it's time for your weekly praise of Carl Burke now. Yet another Group 1 win on the board this weekend with Lawrence.
Amazing, isn't he? Yeah, keeps doing it. She was incredibly tough again, wasn't she? The thing about her is that, unlike Sea of Class, she gives herself the best chance of winning every race she runs in. Now, Sea of Class obviously wins lots of races, but I just like horses like that. She's just totally straightforward, puts her head down, tries, and gets her due rewards. Yeah, she's fantastic. Massive fan of her and her trainer.
Would you go Breeders' Cup Mile or Filly and Mare up against Wild Illusion?
I'd go Filly and Mare myself. I think that's the race for her. I think she stays very well. I think ground will be an issue for Wild Illusion. I think she wants some cut in the ground. I think, as I said about Enable, if it was really quick out there, and it can get quick out there, I think that would be massively against Wild Illusion. I prefer Magic Wand, actually, of the two that ran in the Opera on Saturday. I think she's crying out for fast ground, has been all year, and I think, 1.25 mile round, I don't even know where it is, Santa Anita? Guessing this year would be perfect for her. So I'd go against the milers myself and go up to the 1.25 mile and stay within your own sex group.
Mm-hmm. And what did you make of the 2-year-old winners on the card, Lily's Candle and Royal Marine, Tom?
I totally agree with what Nick said. I thought it was really, to me, Sam, it looked like the track has issues at Longchamp. I don't know, Nick, did you see the foray? Oh my God, I've never seen kickback like it. It was one of those stock car races.
That's what I was going. That's why I should have mentioned earlier in reference to Sir Dancelot. He had all of that going in his face going around the home turn. I don't think he enjoyed it at all. So
it was like a stock car race, wasn't it? Do you remember the old days where you used to watch Grandstand and they couldn't see where they were going and everything was they're all crashing into everything. That's what it looked like to me. It was. And I think the trainers kept their best horses away, really, and therefore the 2-year-old races were pretty weak. I think there's an issue. Andrea Arzini on Saturday was saying that the ground was really patchy, some fast, some slow. After 2 days racing on it really did take a turn for the worse by the time the foray came around. And I don't know. I think I wouldn't. We got some very odd results with the Boussac, the foray, to name but two. And I think that was ground related. I think there's going to be lots of horses that didn't act on the ground at Longchamp because of the condition of it.
And so Royal Marine, we're not thinking Guinness Derby.
No, not at all. Not for me.
Okay. Just looking at the rest of the weekend's action then, Nick, any standout performances for you? Any names for the horse tracker?
There were a couple of good performances at Ascot, wasn't there? I thought the Cumberland Lodge winner, Larabe. Ground had gone a bit, but it will tend to at this time of year. So, he's one that you have on your radar between now and the end of the season because he seems to relish the soft ground. Raising Sand was very impressive.
I think draw advantage wasn't there at Nick on Saturday?
Yeah, no, I think you're right. There was.
I don't know. I mean, I don't think anyone could have spotted that before the meeting, could they? But I think apart from the Fillies race where they all went up the far side, every single race was won by the two highest stalls.
It's just one of those days, wasn't it?
Wasn't it?
It just rained incessantly all day.
I agree
Loads
totally.
of withdrawals, and it just changed the complexion of all the races completely, bar the Cumberland Lodge, which had a small field anyway.
Yeah, I think those people who got stuck in the morning probably didn't realise what was going to happen in the afternoon. But I thought, as Nick says, it turned into a bit of a funny day. But I agree with him entirely about Larabe. If you're asking for my one, I thought the 2-year-old race at Newmarket before the filly and mares race was quite a good one, Sam. It was a couple of seconds slower than Lawrence, but you'd expect that being a 2-year-old sort of novice race. I thought Turgenev sort of won with plenty in hand, but I liked Il Paradiso, the second horse. It's Aidan O'Brien Galileo horse that I think is going to step up to 1.5 miles next year. He's obviously got a long way to go, but we all know that these O'Brien 2-year-olds can take a massive leap forward in a short space of time. So if I was putting one in my tracker today, it would. Well, I have. If I did put one in my tracker today, it was Il Paradiso who ran in the second race at Newmarket on Saturday.
Yeah, no doubt be popping up in a Derby trial early next season, I'd have thought, for him. Paul, for you, any names for the horse tracker?
Yeah, I still really like this Aidan O'Brien horse, Broom, Sam, who finished second to Royal Marine. I think that was a good performance, only just beaten a neck. He was second to a Kevin Prendergast horse called Mad Moon at Leopardstown before that, and I'm pretty sure that this fellow will win a Group 1 at some stage during his career.
Okay, confident words there from Paul Binfield. Up next, we'll be looking ahead to the Fillies Mile, the Dewhurst and the Cesarewitch.
Check out Paddy's Rewards Club. Simply place 5 bets of £10 or more across any sport in a week, and you'll get a free £10 bet the next week. T&Cs apply. 18+. BeGambleAware.org.
So welcome back. Time now to look ahead to the action this weekend. We'll start off with Friday's card at Newmarket, the feature race, the Fillies Mile. Not a bad recent roll of honour on this, Nick. Lawrence, Rhododendron, Minding, the last 3 winners. It looks a pretty high-class renewal again this time around.
Yeah, it does, and I'm very keen to be with Pretty Pollyanna. I don't think she was given the best ride last time. We sat here recently, I think this time last week, and talked about the ride. It's interesting, I noted today on the Racing Post website that Danny Tudhope, his name is next to Pretty Pollyanna, which is quite interesting. I just think this filly is a staying filly. I know she's got Oasis Dream as a sire, but if you look through the downside, it goes back to user-friendly. So one of the good Bill Gredley lines, and user-friendly, of course, St Ledger winner, amongst many other races during a 3-year-old career, and she was all about stamina. Oasis Dream does get stamina horses. He got Midday, who was good over middle distances, so I don't think 6 furlongs. And the way she was ridden last time saw her to best effect whatsoever. I think the step up to a mile is all in her favour. And the fact that they're having another go suggests they're just writing off the Cheveley Park last time as a.
Michael Bell said that pretty much straight after the race.
Yeah, and the fact that she makes such a quick turnaround indicates to me that all is fine, all is well with the horse. They just weren't maybe totally happy with the way she was ridden. She will be a stamina-based filly, I think, for next year. I'm sure she'll be an Oaks horse, but for this time in her 2-year-old season, a mile is perfect for her. Just want them to be positive on her and make the most of that, because I think her stamina will come to the fore. It's a hunch because she has got speed on the sire side, but on the dam side, I think it's all stamina.
What's the latest betting for this, Paul?
Well, we make Aidan O'Brien's Just Wonderful 3-1 favourite, Sam. Then it's 7-2 Antonio de Vega, 4-1 Hermosa, 9-2 Zagitova, 6 Pretty Pollyanna for Nick Watts, 10-1 Shambolic, and it's 16-1 Bar.
6-1 Pretty Pollyanna. Does that seem a big price to you, Tom?
Yeah, it seems like a massive price because she's got much the best form, Sam. There's obviously doubts about the trip. I agree with Nick. I think she'll have no problem with a mile. The one I don't get is Antonio de Vega at 7-2. Wouldn't back her at 17-2. I don't know where that's come from. She's won both her races, but the form of her Goodwood race, I mean, it couldn't work out worse, basically. I mean, all the horses behind her have been thrash-synced. I think Magnetic Charm might have run well behind Fleeting at Doncaster, but she was beaten a long way again. I don't get that price. I think Aidan O'Brien is obviously incredibly dangerous in those races. Hermosa will love the step up to a mile. Whether she's quite good enough, I don't know. But Just Wonderful's was good the other day. I don't know where that came from because she'd been a bit disappointing prior to the Rockfell.
It's so hard this year to weigh up the O'Brien 2-year-olds, isn't it?
Couldn't agree more. They're in and out of form. Look at all these fillies running in this race. They've lost more races than they've won. You know, all of his fillies running in the race: Agatova, Peachtree, Pink Dogwood, Just Wonderful, Hermosa. They've all been beaten more than they've won, and you're sort of sitting there thinking, well, is this one any good? And one of them will be very good. They just will be. But choosing which one it's going to be, and that's, I don't know what Ryan Moore's done to annoy them, but he always seems to be on the wrong one these days, isn't he? I mean, it's so hard because we don't. My guess, I don't know. Paul know the Irish scene more than me, but I guess they don't know which is the best one often in these 2-year-old races at the moment. And so for us to try and guess which one it is at this stage is really, really tricky. For me, I'm with Nick. I think Pretty Pollyanna's the best filly in the race. And if she stays the trip, and I'm a massive Danny Tubhope fan, I think she'd be hard to beat.
And Paul, what would be your bet in the race at this stage?
Well, Tom's already said about Hermosa. I'm going to guess that is the Aidan O'Brien one in this race. As he's already said, it's tricky, isn't it? Up to a mile will suit her. She's been very good over 7 furlongs. She won the Group 3 World Park Stakes nicely last month at Naas. And I think some of these Aidan O'Brien 2-year-olds, it is tricky because a lot of them are by Galileo, and they just seem to keep improving throughout the season. And Hermosa ticks a lot of boxes for me.
Okay, well, talking of Aidan O'Brien 2-year-olds, let's look at the Dewhurst now. 8 of the 12 runners trained by the Master of Ballydoyle, but Paul, he won't have the favourite. Too Darn Hot. Pretty hot for this.
Yeah, very hot, Sam. Too Darn Hot, even money. 3-1 Sangarius with William Buick booked to ride that one. 5-1 Anthony Van Dyke and 10 Sovereigns. 7 advertised, 14 Mohawk, and it's 25-1 Bar.
And who wins, Paul?
Well, Too Darn Hot has been awfully impressive, hasn't he, Sam? He's a short price for the Guineas and the Derby next year. He'll be difficult to beat. But one horse that I do love, and he's pretty obvious as he's second in the betting, but Sangarius, thought he was really good at Doncaster last time, and he's in the right ownership. And he could give Too Darn Hot a very good race.
I mean, we've talked about Too Darn Hot on the Postcast before, Tom. Doubts about the track, Newmarket, for him?
I would have said so, given that John Gosden made a point of saying Lati Dar didn't like the track, and I can't remember if so Ray Me, or whatever it was called, Dar Ray Me one round there. Maybe she did. I would have been worried about him on fast ground. It won't be fast ground now, will it? It's good to soft at the moment. Although, having said that, it's supposed to be 25 degrees or something this week, so it will dry out there, and it does dry out pretty quickly at Ascot. So my guess is it won't be too soft. I think he'll be fine on it, really. I I'm the master of overcomplication, as everyone knows, and I will probably end up trying to take him on grounds like that. But the real reason I'll take him on is because he'll be odds on against loads of horses with ones by their name, who come with different strands of form. I still think Anthony Van Dyke is a very good horse. I think he bumped into a really good one in Corto at Curragh last time. And with Binners, I think Sangaris is very good. It'd be interesting to see if 10 Sovereign steps up. I would be doubtful, but they've got him in here.
What about Advertise?
I don't think he's good enough. No, I thought the Calix. I thought Calix won that race. Had it shot to pieces miles out, and I think bar him, the ones on the far side, they're all much of muchness, isn't he? He just beat Van Beethoven or whatever it was called, Sergei Prokofiev, wasn't it? And he's not done anything for the form. A few of them around haven't done much for the form. I just think Calix had to go on his near side and beat his side by so far that it might have flattered him a bit. I didn't think he was quite as impressive at the Curragh last time. What he will like is to step up to 7 furlongs, and So Perfect didn't do too much it did something for the form the other day at in the Cheveley Park, didn't she? So I'd give him a shot, but I think he's too short a price.
And Nick, what's your take on the race?
I don't think 10 Sovereigns will run. I know they've left him in, but I'd be amazed if he ran, to be honest, because he's done quite a lot in a very short space of time, and he wasn't hugely impressive when he won last time at Newmarket either. So I think he's probably done enough for now. I think Anthony Van Dyke will be the one they go with.
On hot though.
No, I don't think they can, and I'd have a few concerns on fast ground around Newmarket for Too Darn Hot. Particularly with an eye on next April, where you're more likely to get a fast service, I think, than you are at the moment. Because I looked at my country file weather for the week last night on BBC One, and there's plenty of rain around for the weekend.
I didn't see that.
Yeah,
there.
I know there's some good temperatures in the week, but towards the end of the week, Saturday, Sunday, there's looks like quite a lot of wet weather blowing in. So I don't think that'll be an excuse for Too Darn Hot. I thought last time was his most impressive performance, actually, because I know visually he was good at Sandown the time before in the Solario, and the horses he beat were good, but I thought he was asked quite a big question at Doncaster, because it turned out he was following the wrong horse. They thought it was the right horse, the Johnston one, but he was off his game that day completely, and because Frankie was following him, it left him with quite a lot of ground to make up. But he didn't just make it up, he got to the front very, very fast indeed, and went away and won. I think he beat the Aiken winner, Charlie Hills' horse, Phoenix of Spain, very comfortably. So I thought there was a lot to take from that, and if they do get enough dig in the ground that it's nice and forgiving for him, then I think he is the one they've all got to beat. He's the 2-year-old that's impressed me most this season, and I just love watching him race. I love seeing 2-year-olds like that, really not just win cosily, but they really stamp their authority on the race. They like to win by long distances, and I always remember Frankel as a 2-year-old. That's what they like to do with him. Don't just go and win by half a length on the bridle. Go and show your superiority and win 4 or 5, and really show your class. And that's what he's been doing. So I love to watch him.
Yeah. But next year, does he strike you as the Guineas winner?
Well, it's funny. I read the article in the week where John Gosden was saying he doesn't know if he's a Derby horse, but I'd be stunned if he's not a Derby horse. I can't believe that he won't. He wouldn't stay a Derby trip. He's by Dubarry, who I think finished 3rd in the Derby. His dam won the Yorkshire Oaks amongst many other races. If he doesn't have the stamina in his pedigree to win a Derby, I would be absolutely amazed. And I think that's just Gosden dampening down speculation about him, really.
Okay, well, the big betting race of the weekend is the Cesarewitch. Paul, let's start off with you. The show of betting and your early fancy for the race.
The Cesarewitch, we have 6-1 favourite Stratham, 10-1 Low Sun, 12 Here and Now, Limony, Southern France, V, and it's 14-1 the rest.
And who's your early fancy for it, Paul?
Well, I always like the jumps trainers in this race, and Alan King he's got a few in there actually, but Just in Time is the one I like. I'm really impressed by the way he won the Mallard handicap at Doncaster last time, and Alan King in this race brings back fond memories of Grametti winning it in 2015 for my friend and flamboyant owner Max McNeil.
Very good. Tom, Early thoughts on the Cesarewitch?
Well, Watsy won't be here on next week, Sam, because he's going to have the old autumn double, isn't he? Because he's told us all for weeks now that Low Sun's going to win. I think he might be onto something. I think Willie Mullins is definitely going to win the race. He's got about 7 in there. I'm a bit of a fan of Uradel if he runs as well. But I can't see past Mullins. I think Cleonte for Andrew Balding might run well, but Willie Mullins is mustard in these races these days, and I wouldn't be looking any further than him. The problem is I think he's got about 6 in there.
Yeah, trying to work out Mullins is as hard as Aidan O'Brien at this time of year, isn't it?
We're used to this kind of puzzle in March, aren't we? You know, it reads like a Coral Cup market at the moment with Mullins having, 5 or 6 chances in it. And yeah, I mean, Tom's right. Low Sun is the one that kind of earmarked for this race. He's kind of crept up on me a little bit, and he won a handicap hurdle for Mullins at a big price in the spring. Katie O'Farrell rode him, and I think it's 25 to 1, might have been even bigger than that. But, shown that, to be no fluke since then, and won a 2-mile handicap at the Curragh in the summer, and he's just a dour stayer. And they put him back to 1.5 miles last time at Bellewstown, and he finished 6th. I wouldn't pay much attention to that. I think that was just fine tuning. And I think 2 miles 2 Newmarket marathon trip. I think he's got a lot in his favour. But that said, Mullins, as Tom alluded to, has got plenty. I don't know if he's planning to run Chelcar, for example. He really caught my eye behind Lagos to Vegas when he ran at Ascot. Wasn't cited at Galway after that, but I'd be interested if he ran. I don't know what kind of price he is. But if I had to pick one between the Mullins Brigade, I'd nailed my colours to Low Sun's Master a few weeks ago, so I'm going to stick with that.
Wise move. We'll be back again on Friday. Well, Bruce will be back again on Friday, looking ahead in a bit more detail to the weekend's action. But from me, Nick, Tom and Paul, that's all for today. If you do enjoy these shows, do rate, review and subscribe whatever platform you're listening to us on. We'll also be back on Wednesday with the Golf Postcast, Thursday with the football, and Maddie will be back next Monday for another racing review.
Follow Paddy Power on Snapchat. The username is ThePaddyPower, and we promise there won't be any boring snaps about gigs, the weather, or the gym.